The most powerful weapon here is this computer.
The man who's taking the photos and using the internet, it's work than you can hand him a gun and shoot him.
But a computer or mobile phone can also become a fatal trap for the people that use them. They can track down your phone with the SIM card. And if they find you, they'll attack us.
Who here has an iPhone? Who here has a BlackBerry? Well, you're all through.
Digital espionage devices are as invasive as they are invisible. And Western companies have sold them to the worst dictatorships in the world.
These companies sold us out to Gaddafi.
No, I didn't know it wasn't a democracy.
You made a pact with the devil.
Yes, but I'm not the one who made the pact. The Interior Ministry has nothing to do with this arrangement.
In an arms fair, there are some charming salespeople who can offer you all kinds of tools that can break bones or cause serious bleeding. From the most sophisticated, so baseball bat, to the most basic. What's good with this? It never jams. It always works. But there's an entirely new sector. Discreet, no strong arm stuff. Business suits and a scientific approach. They avoid the spotlight and the cameras.
We don't give in to use that much, and we don't get that approach that much.
Okay.
No, we're sorry.
No?
No. To say anything about this product.
It's secret.
Yeah.
I'm filming. Please stop.
Don't touch me, just... Okay, don't touch me, okay?
Why all the mystery? They're not selling chemical weapons or deadly viruses. It's just software that can be used by police against cyber criminals. Since they won't talk to us, we've asked one of their bitterest opponents to help explain what's going on here. Kiops is a hacker, a rebel computer scientist considered by some as a pirate. Kiops has agreed to join us on his enemy's turf, and he's far from reassured.
So, how do you feel being here?
Well, it's kind of intimidating to see so many weapons.
Et là, c'est quoi, là? Qu'est-ce qu'on lit, en fait, là, sur la ligne rouge, là? Regarde, regarde.
The advertising panels seem to make no sense at all, at least to us, ordinary mortals. What does flux IP at 10 gigabps mean? But Kiops can decipher the hieroglyphs.
They're trying to sell the fact that they can capture flux IPs, which are very fast. They don't use the word population, it's just technical terms. They just say, if there's a mass of data, we can intercept it all. But what in the world can produce such a huge volume of data flows? An entire country?
So they upscale the monitoring from one person all the way to the whole nation?
Yeah, that's right. It'll be something that's monitoring your phone or your computer without you realizing it.
An invisible spy.
Yes, a spyware that infiltrates your system.
Entire countries being observed? Maybe our friend the hacker is exaggerating a bit. But a salesman from South Africa confirms the prowess of his software.
The technology is capable of monitoring all communications. But of course it has to be done within the within what the law provides you to do. You can see this could be very dangerous, like any weapon. It's not an offensive weapon, but it's a weapon all the same. We have a moral obligation also not to sell where our equipment can be used to against the good of the people of the country, of course.
Sure.
None of the companies at the arms fair are willing to explain how their technology actually works in front of the camera. But we managed to obtain an in-house demonstration video. Computer images that highlight the qualities of the fin fisher system, a company with a nice shark fin logo. The character in blue is a policeman, and he knows all there is to know about you. Your phone's taped, and he knows where you are. You don't see him, but from his control room, he can read your emails and monitor everything you do on the internet. Without knowing it, you're surfing among sharks.
Like Libya of Gaddafi would be a country where you would sell to?
I cannot say, and even if you ask me whether we'd sell in France, I cannot tell. I cannot tell you yes or no, for very good reasons.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks.
The salesman doesn't appreciate the question, and for very good reasons. The South African Vastec company is thought to have sold their equipment to Gaddafi. And they're not the only ones. Tripoli, 2012. Gaddafi no longer exists, nor does his dictatorship. After a revolutionary uprising that lasted several months, the decisive military intervention of NATO, including France, brings about the collapse of his regime. The dictator's palace is wiped out, just ruins. The symbols of his power pulverized by guided bombs and missiles. This is all that's left of the Interior Ministry. For years, Libyans passed this building as quickly as they could, looking the other way. At the end of a ramp, a steel door leads into a formerly secret bunker. It's a weird walk through the paranoia created by Colonel Gaddafi.
Here there are still some documents that I saw when I entered. What is this?
This is for football.
Football?
They're talking about a match.
But why would they be afraid of football?
I will tell you why. Because a lot of people going to the stadium, and the thousands, maybe 100,000, and they want to control this collection of people.
This crowd. Okay. Yeah. They would be afraid that people would demonstrate against the government?
Yeah.
The telephone tapping center wasn't destroyed by the bombs. In here, other people's conversations were constantly recorded to make sure they were thinking nothing bad. Western companies supplied the equipment. Gaddafi was an excellent client. On the shelves, there's still some sales brochures. Hidden microphones. A phone taping system brochure. An offer from Philips. The date, 1990. The height of Libya's bloody dictatorship. On these now empty shelves, hundreds of thousands of files could be found. Hundreds of thousands of lives in alphabetical order. An old-fashioned system, but effective. The Libyans are waking up from the long nightmare of a police state.
We'll never forget the role France played and President Nicolas Sarkozy, who really helped us. It was so bad that we were even scared to dream when we slept in case they'd found a way to monitor our dreams.
The Libyans may not know it, but before supporting the revolution, Sarkozy's France had helped their dictator spy on their every movement. But no one was meant to find that out. The story begins in the chaos following the fall of Tripoli. Gaddafi's men abandon their positions. It's an open city. In the confusion, a BBC journalist slips into a building that housed the intelligence services. To the locals, this place had a fearful reputation. They call it the Abdallah Sanusi Center. The spy master was the most dangerous man in the country after Colonel Gaddafi himself. The building is in the dark, but the beam of the torchlight reveals posters printed in English instructing the employees to keep their activities secret. What they did here, though, was spy on the internet and locate mobile phones. On the posters is a logo, a French company, Emesis. Emesis merged with Bull to become one of the giants in electronic warfare, with close ties to the French defense industry. Bull Emesis targets a global market, selling to anyone willing to put up the money for large security gadgets.
This is today Emesis's most advanced jamming equipment.
Emesis sold Gaddafi's political police a system that enabled them to read emails and tap mobile phones. The interception program has a name any cop in the world would find attractive: Eagle.
It's legal, which means there are good diplomatic relations with a certain country, so I will sell to that country.
The Libyan revolution began in this cyber cafe in Benghazi. Here, the internet insurgents would meet around a broadband connection. Intellectuals, journalists, bloggers. Inside the offices of the new Libyan government, we found one of the former insurgents. Today, he's Benghazi's Secretary of State for Culture. While stamping official letters, he keeps one eye on his Facebook page.
It was the only way we could escape from the regime's propaganda to find out what was really going on. When Libyans saw things on the internet, it meant they were true. The internet became the only source of information and truth for most people.
Gaddafi's regime was forced to tolerate the internet, but he knew he had to place it under surveillance. In 2008, a team of French technicians arrived in Tripoli. They came to install Emesis's Eagle program, a top-secret mission. We had tried meeting those experts. Difficult. They abide by the law of silence. Most of them are closely connected with the Ministry of Defense.
I was calling to see if you could share some memories with us about this operation.
I have absolutely nothing to say.
Nothing?
Well, I'm bound by a confidentiality agreement with Emesis.
After many setbacks, we finally met up with a computer scientist who spent several months in Tripoli working for Emesis. He's taking a huge risk, so his identity and voice have been protected. The first thing he does is remove the battery and SIM card from his cell phone. He's fully aware that his phone can be taped, even if it's switched off. He remembers the trip to Libya as an operation followed closely by the French authorities.
They took us and they brought us back. We didn't have passports, and the less questions we asked, the better.
So it was all very secretive.
Oh yes, very much so. It's typical of the kind of operation conducted by the French Foreign Intelligence Services.
The secret services?
Yes, in collaboration with the local secret services. The company is providing the technology, of course, but behind that there are the intelligence services that back everything up.
What did the Emesis system do technically exactly? Well, not technically, but practically.
Practically? You could monitor everything that entered or left the country. They were quite worried about what was happening in the universities. They had a very well-developed sense of secrecy. They wanted us to help them achieve what they wanted, but at the same time without us finding out too much about it. So, when we set up the system, they were happy to let us configure it to their requirements, but without going into specifics. They'd ask, how could we monitor a university? Obviously, we understood they wanted to target the campuses and be able to pick out the key words in the data stream.
The universities were center of opposition, especially in Benghazi, where a network of activists led the campaign. Jalal worked at Benghazi University. He was one of its most influential bloggers. He was arrested when the revolution began to gather strength. He was held in this interrogation center. He never thought he would leave it alive. They had covered my eyes, and my hands were very tightly tied. As soon as I tried to move, it would really hurt. They kicked me and beat me with iron bars. They asked me where the pamphlets were. Where were they hidden? I denied it. I said there were no pamphlets. But later, I saw they had everything on file. They knew everything, our conversations, all of it. They took off my hood, pushed me up against the wall, and showed me the files. And when I opened it, I could read my last conversation with Amin, where we were talking about pamphlets. It was over. I couldn't deny anything. They watched me read the file, and they said, "You see what we have on you now?" All I could say was, "Yes, I see."
We met some Libyan bloggers, opponents who had been arrested. People had been beaten, tortured, partly because of your technology.
Well, this is a misuse of our product.
Well, actually, they used it precisely how it should be used.
Listen, when I sold this product, I was told it would be used to help Libya fight Al-Qaeda.
And when you realized this wasn't exactly what was happening, what did you think?
Mr. Moreira, what do you want me to do? I'm not the one using the products. I am not in front of the screen. I am not the one making the inquiries. Unfortunately, I have to put up with it.
What was the atmosphere like in the center while you were training the Libyans?
They were excited. They were like kids. It was a great step forward for them. The leadership had spent a lot of money to buy this thing, and they were like kids. It was Christmas. They were like children, really.
The first day I stayed here, right where this mark is. It was just the same then. There was nothing in the cell. It was cold and it was raining, like today. There wasn't any light. I was frozen. It was winter, February.
Do you know whether the system you helped set up in Libya was used to arrest people?
We've had no feedback about that. If they used it like we taught them to, I would expect so, yes. It wouldn't be conceivable if they didn't. You'd really need to be bad to use this kind of system without success.
Look, I wrote my name, Jalal, and my son's name. Also, the Movement for Justice, 17th of February. I wrote it because I was convinced I was going to die. Among the bloggers we met, none were members of Al-Qaeda. Ataf al-Atrash, a young opposition journalist, was held prisoner for several months.
I was given special treatment. They played my son's voice back to me. They'd recorded it during a phone call I had with Al Jazeera. My son had been crying in the background. They isolated his voice, sampled it, and played it back to me. I'd been in prison 3 months. I was annihilated.
Well, about ethics, we pretty much left that on the side while working in Tripoli.
You didn't think of it?
No, we didn't.
Because looking back, you could say we're not very proud of what we've done.
Yes, exactly.
They told me there was no point in denying anything, because they were going to show me all the emails I'd exchanged with my friends. I thought that was odd. I asked how they'd managed to get such accurate recordings. They said they made a pact with the devil and all his ghosts. Certainly such precision could only come from abroad. And we realized that later on.
Everyone was interested in getting new business within a legal diplomatic framework with Libya. This is something which did not happen one day to the next. It was a long process that brought Libya to become respectable.
So how was Libya reclassified a respectable nation, and by who? What role did the French government play? The rehabilitation of Gaddafi seemed unlikely when Nicolas Sarkozy was elected president in 2007.
Je veux être le président d'une France qui défend la liberté chez elle, mais la liberté dans le monde, parce que c'est la vocation de la France de défendre la liberté. Je veux être le président de la France des droits de l'homme. Je ne crois pas à la réelle politique qui fait renoncer à ses valeurs sans gagner des contrats.
How did the French leadership turn Gaddafi's status as a pariah into that of a friend of France within just 5 years? A shadowy figure was the architect of reconciliation, an extremely wealthy French-Lebanese businessman who lives in this impressive house in the heart of Paris. Ziad Chakheddine is a fantastic networker. His talent is to cultivate the people that matter. Genuine friendships, of course. In his splendid villa on the Côte d'Azur, his guests include government figures such as Brice Hortefeux, advisor to then Interior Minister Nicolas Sarkozy, and Jean-François Copé, the budget minister. Photographs and documents surfaced during an inquiry into a juicy arms trafficking case in which Ziad Chakheddine acted as a go-between. But please, don't say he's an arms dealer.
I'm not the one who sells weapons. France is the arms dealer. And France has a hard time selling its products. So it needs to be helped by someone who understands just a little the ways to convince your clients that your goods are far better and more beautiful than anyone else's.
Ziad Taqiyuddin denies receiving money for the sale of surveillance equipment to Libya. Nevertheless, during legal proceedings, evidence emerged of several payments made by Amesis into 3 of his accounts in offshore tax havens. The bill came to 4 million euros.
All I did, and I'm proud of it, is that whenever someone in France needed help in approaching Libya, I would try and genuinely provide that help.
But you know why these companies have been criticized. Their equipment was used to listen into the opposition.
Listen, forget that. The purpose of the sales of this equipment was very healthy.
But the good business deal was only possible after the political reconciliation between France and Libya. And here too, Ziad Taqiyuddin seems to have played a key role. He set a parallel diplomatic channel between Libya and elements of the French government. Claude Guéant, deputy for the then Interior Minister Nicolas Sarkozy, visited Tripoli in 2005 to get in touch with the colonel.
I contributed to establishing this very serious relationship in order to help the 2 countries.
Ziad Taqiyuddin confirms he helped organize every detail of Claude Guéant's trip to Libya. In a message sent from Taqiyuddin's personal computer to the Ministry of Interior, the preparations were qualified as military secret. The visit was for, quote, commercial objectives. But Taqiyuddin advises to remain low-key on the topic. It's indispensable that the commercial aspect of the visit should not be highlighted during the official preparations. It should be mentioned only within the framework of the fight against terrorism. So officially, the Amesis Center that intercepts internet traffic in Tripoli is assistance to help Libya combat terrorism. The irony of the story is that France will hand this sophisticated French espionage system to world-infamous terrorist, Abdallah Senussi. Senussi is wanted by French justice for many years.
Did you meet senior officials?
Yes, Mr. Abdallah, often.
Abdallah, you mean Senussi?
Yes, precisely. We'd see him regularly. He'd be the one who'd bang his fists on the table when he was unhappy about delivery or other problems. He was closely involved from start to finish.
You could say he was the client.
Yes, he was the client. Yes, clearly.
Abdallah Senussi is a shadowy figure. He carries out Gaddafi's dirty work. In 1989, Senussi is responsible for the bombing of UTA Flight 722 that explodes over the Sahara, killing 170 people, 54 of them French. In France, Senussi is found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. In Libya, however, he becomes the country's senior policeman and orders around French technicians who have been accredited to the Ministry of Defense in Paris.
Your client was Abdallah Senussi. Yes, the one who would tell you, I want this or that installed. It was Abdallah Senussi. The man who was sentenced to life imprisonment by a French court for having blown up a passenger jet which killed several dozen French citizens. Did you know this or you just didn't care?
I remember the incident with the plane exploding. I don't remember the details. You know, me and politics.
No, hang on a minute. This was your client. You didn't realize it was the same Abdallah Senussi?
Personally, no.
So you're learning something new now?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
As a result, one of the country's most dangerous men now acquired sophisticated listening equipment. Claude Guéant denies he was aware of this at the time. He twice explains himself before Parliament. Opposition MPs ask him specifically about Abdallah Senussi.
What exactly were your relations with the former regime in Libya, and in particular with Abdullah Senussi, Mr. Minister? Were you aware what these dealings were really about, which would be very serious?
Thank you.
Or was it that
Minister?
Let me be clear. I assume full responsibility for my actions, Mr. Paul. Neither the Minister of the Interior nor any of his staff were ever involved in such a transaction.
We asked Claude Guéant several times for an interview, but it appears it's an issue he doesn't wish to talk about. Ziad Taqiyuddin claims he was in constant touch with Guéant during the entire Libyan operation. If so, the member of government may have confided some ethical doubts.
You were with Claude Guéant on each of his visits with the Libyans, as you have said on many occasions. Was there ever a moment when he expressed any doubts or questioned the fact that selling such technology, monitoring equipment, to the Libyans would eventually be used against the forces for democracy?
Everyone did it. I think it's really unjust, unfair, to say whatever about Claude Guéant, because what he did for his country. As far as Mr. Guéant's concerned, I'm very much in his camp.
Still, before the parliament, Claude Guéant will play down his contacts with Ziad Taqiyuddin.
So, Mr. Minister, can you explain to us why Ziad Taqiyuddin claimed to be your intermediary in the exchanges you conducted with the Libyans, since he seems to show up in several other files?
I sometimes spoke with Mr. Taqiyuddin on the telephone. I can't put up with people saying I lied. I know what really happened. I spoke with him on the phone occasionally, and he'd fill me in on the mood in Tripoli. But the negotiations took place directly with Colonel Gaddafi. There were no negotiations, no contacts made on any deals whatsoever in this matter. But it doesn't mean that anyone can write anything in any media, and it should be more reliable than the word of a minister of the Republic. And I repeat, there were no negotiations and no commercial dealings with the person whose name you have mentioned.
Just 2 months after being elected in May 2007, President Nicolas Sarkozy flies to Tripoli to visit Colonel Gaddafi. On the eve of the visit, Gaddafi demonstrates his goodwill by freeing the Bulgarian nurses who had been wrongly imprisoned in the Libyan jails. A new chapter is about to be written, and it all begins in front of the cameras with the signing of a cooperation agreement between France and Libya. Among other agreements, there are arrangements made for security and communications partnerships. This is where Messes comes into the equation.
It was this agreement that the relevant French technology, which, as you say, includes interception, phone calls, and so forth, is a part of. When you talk of cooperation, it means cooperation at all levels. You need to search out the criminals. You need to see how they move around. You need to tap the telephones. That we managed to sell it to the Libyans is fantastic.
4 months later, in December, the visit is reciprocated when the Libyan leader is welcomed in Paris. He pitches tent in the gardens of the Republic. Gaddafi makes it known he's offering France 10 billion euros worth of contracts. It's a boom for the French economy. Gaddafi in particular promises to buy the Rafale, the highly expensive fighter jet that France has never been able to sell. Among the opposition, there's bad-mouthing that President Sarkozy has gone back on his word, that he now favors commercial contracts to human rights. It's good to be given lessons about human rights by posers of Café Society. I told President Gaddafi that there needs to be much more progress on the road to human rights.
Firstly, President Sarkozy and I didn't talk about these topics. We're friends and close partners.
They weren't raised at all?
No, not at all, no. We talked about cooperation between our two nations. We talked about agreements in different areas and beneficial to both countries.
Gaddafi will not keep his word. He will never buy the Rafale jet, just a few anti-tank missiles which might always come in handy. But he will spend 26 million euros for a superb electronic warfare system.
A surveillance equipment. Is it the best way to help a country become a democracy?
No, it's a better way to show a country that you're willing to help it, so long as it takes the necessary good steps toward becoming a democracy. Afterwards, you judge the bottom line. If it hasn't done it, it will be punished.
Due in large part to French airstrikes, Libya rids itself of Gaddafi. For many Libyans, Sarkozy is a hero.
Vive l'amitié entre la France et la Libye!
Only a handful of pro-democracy fighters continue to see France in a different light.
لماذا هذه الشركة Why did those companies sell him that equipment? These aren't companies from a fascist country, a dictatorship. They're from a democracy, the land of the French Revolution. Rousseau, of Voltaire. It was used against who? Against freedom fighters. People fighting for democracy.
So it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
And you changed a lot.
Yes.
Physically.
My hair, half of it white hair and black hair. Before that, no.
White hair.
Yeah.
And you're young.
Yes, I'm just only 33 years old.
And the jail turned you, yeah, great.
Yes, every month by 10 years.
C'est déplorable.
It's a shame. It's really a shame. Personally, I am very sorry, indeed. Of course. Who wouldn't be? You have to remember, there was an economic context and a political context at a certain point.
You made a pact with the devil.
Yes, but I'm not the one who made the pact.
Yeah, you're just selling him a couple of pitchforks.
A couple of pitchforks, I'm not sure really. But I know that when I can stop a convoy of being bombed, I'm very proud.
J'en suis effectivement très fier.
Dissidents and dictatorships have to learn how to survive in a new environment. They are spied on, tracked down with GPSs, and monitored. To stay alive, they must slip through the digital nets. A matter of life and death. In Syria, the revolt continues. Each day, insurgents used social networks to post their videos of repression for the world to see. To the powers that be, the internauts are a target. The Syrian army systematically shells internet transmission centers. More than 100 Syrian bloggers and Twitters have already been killed. If the flow of videos and words dries up, thousands of men and women will die. One winter evening, we secretly crossed from Turkey into Syria. We were with a group of insurgents and were curious to see how they fought against the new digital weapons. The first clue is in this large plastic bag in which they carry satellite phones, which are impossible to get hold of in Syria. Behind the barbed wire is Syria. If we're spotted here, the soldiers will open fire. We're hiding in a safe house with a group of resistance fighters, all of them deserters from the regular army. About 10 of them live hidden here, just a few hundred meters from Syrian army positions. And security is basic. We've covered the windows so the government troops don't see our lights from the outside. If they see the house is occupied, they'll send in tanks. Ali is the only insurgent who lets us see his face. He was identified a long time ago and has nothing to lose therefore. His main concern is that the army uncovers their bolt hole. The first thing he does is to inspect our telephones. He seems to have picked up the basics of electronic warfare. They have machines that can track your telephone because of the code. So if you put your SIM card back in, they could track us down and attack. The safe house is in the middle of olive trees, and the following morning, we set out taking all the precautions we can. In the car, Ali sees the precious satellite phones that have arrived from Turkey. They are a crucial commodity, even more than Kalashnikovs. Ali constantly changes the SIM cards in his phones. He never keeps the same number for very long. The region is patrolled by the regular army. At every village, their tanks are stationed with their guns covering the main street. On the rooftops, snipers are ready to shoot off their next targets. Checkpoints control access to the towns. Checkpoints we pass through with fear in our hearts. All of the satellite and electronic equipment seized by the army is routinely destroyed. Ali takes us to where a blogger once lived. The government militia had ransacked the house. Look, the army smashed everything and seized all the documents and files. The computers used to belong to the blogger.
They were looking for anything to do with internet.
Ali is taking us to meet with some key internet insurgents. There are dozens of them throughout the country. In this part of Syria, the government has shut down the internet.
You have internet?
Yes, on the Thuraya.
Okay, you have internet on the Thuraya.
Thurayas are satellite telephones that can transmit internet without passing through the network controlled by the Syrian government.
Here in this area, zero internet.
Zero internet.
It's totally jammed.
Yes, because the government doesn't want us to send photos, videos, or sound bites to the outside world. I'm now working on an editing software program so we can put out our videos onto YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. Communicating via the internet requires savvy and optimism. While we're filming, the electricity suddenly cuts off. Switch on the generator.
Oh, you have a generator.
Yes. That's what powers up our electricity. But the rest of the village has nothing. It happens all the time. There are few activists with sufficient technical know-how to upload videos despite the difficulties. They need to film every event and stay safe at the same time. Tonight, we're going to Idlib, a large city in the north of Syria. Hunched on the back of motorbikes, we avoid the Syrian army checkpoints to make our way into the city. One man was less fortunate. He's just been shot dead at the military checkpoint. We took his body to the hospital, and a crowd of men with cameras and telephones soon gather. Every abuse is filmed for the record.
His name is Akram Sawa ibn Abu. He was killed near the bridge.
The body of the martyr is carried around the city in what seems like a spontaneous demonstration. The digital warriors are at every protest. They try and broadcast the events live. They know the regime is out to get them. But today, hackers of the revolution are having trouble locating a working network.
It's broken. What are you using? And it's broken?
No, it's not working.
It's not working.
Yeah, it's not working. The man who's taking the photos and using the internet, it's worse than you can hand him a gun and shoot him. Okay.
They sold to
Members of the resistance from Idlib are heading off to meet a group of former Syrian army soldiers who deserted as they refused to continue shooting civilians. We find them somewhere in a village. It's crucial for the opposition that their action is publicized on the internet. It will serve as an example that could encourage other soldiers to also break rank. Using a simple mobile phone, their statement is duly recorded and will be put on YouTube within just a few hours.
They're terrorists. I could no longer take part in their atrocities.
Despite the danger, the internet activists try and remain connected to the outside world. They know it's their only chance to survive.
Do you know someone or people who were actually arrested because of their internet activity?
All my friends. Everybody. My friend lost 3 teeth from his mouth because of using the internet.
This scared them very much because this what show the other world. We have nothing, we have no connection to other world except this. And they punish you severely with it. They punish the people who know you. They punish your family.
They try to monitor everything.
How?
You've heard of the blue coat machines they have gained from Iraq?
Blue coat. How did you hear about the blue coat machines?
There's a group called Anonymous Hackers for Freedom. If you have heard of them, they have hacked into the Syrian internet servers, and they have extracted about 45 gigabytes of information, recording every action we do on internet in Syria.
Who has the long-distance ability to penetrate a dictatorship's central computers? It presumably takes considerable resources to achieve such an exploit. In fact, it doesn't. It so happens we know the two hackers who broke into the system. One of them is Cheops, who had helped guide us through the Digital Armament Convention. They achieved their masterstroke from one of their own computers one night at home. Their key weapons were patience and coffee.
There's what we call the directory using an atlas. It's like a map of the internet. You can see like, okay, there are the IP addresses that relate to Syria. You can see there are 200,000 of them, so it means we had just 200,000 computers to sift through.
Okay, you had a directory of each Syrian computers and you checked who was behind them?
Computers are actually very polite creatures. You go, hello, who are you? And they answer. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an internet. You wouldn't be able to communicate. Still, we went without a lot of sleep.
Last summer, for me anyway, was one where I didn't sleep for several nights sometimes.
So what did they uncover inside the system? That the entire population of Syria was being watched. It's there, written in red, observed. Whatever sites you went on, there was software that was spying on you. And, a stroke of luck, the monitoring equipment's name was revealed before their eyes, amongst the lines of code.
Yeah, there below, clearly spelled out, is Blue Coat SG-9000 series.
And that is the machine that spies on Syrian internet users. Harmless, looks like a large hard drive, but it's not to be trusted. The metal box can send you to prison. It's built in the pleasant Silicon Valley of California.
So this equipment was used to block certain sites, but was it also used to identify people that used it?
Yes, absolutely. Once you've seen in the logs which IP address has been accessing a site, you can identify the person. So it certainly helps in tracking the person down.
And what were they actually trying to monitor? It was opposition websites like Syria Change and social networks where you can post pictures. The two hackers decide to alert Syrian internet users about the discovery. To do so, they have to reroute the country's internet traffic to a website they have created. Every time someone in Syria logs in, the first page that appears on their screens will be the warning the authorities are observing their computers.
So your internet activity is monitored, is the short message, and then the page disappears after a minute, and a second page explains it all, and there's a link to the software. That has more technical explanations.
When the Syrians log on, this is what they find.
So you hijack the internet flow?
Well, it's more of a deviation, really.
The U.S. authorities have launched a judicial investigation into Blue Coat. They have also set up embargo against the Syrian dictatorship. Providing such equipment is strictly forbidden. The management of Blue Coat claims the equipment was sold through a trader in Dubai, and they didn't know it would then be sold on to the Syrians. Companies that provide digital policing equipment remain close-lipped about the countries they sell to. Without the hackers, no one would have ever known that Blue Coat equipment was being used by Syria's political police. Without the fall of Tripoli, no one would have heard of Emessa's espionage equipment. As far as international law is concerned, interception equipment is not officially considered to be a weapon. It can be sold to anyone without permission. A little discretion is all that's required. And preferably, invisibility. Towards the end of 2011, a gathering brings together journalists and hackers in London. The aim is to provide details for the first time about the extent of this new global industry dominated by hundreds of companies the public has never heard of. The findings will be presented by probably the most famous hacker of them all.
So who here has an iPhone? Who here has a BlackBerry? Who here uses Gmail? Well, you're all through.
You can pretty much ask yourself a question, which is, am I carrying a mobile phone? And if you are answering that with a yes, you can actually just replace that question with, am I carrying a tracking device that also happens to make phone calls? And the answer to that is actually also yes, it turns out. Because that's what GSM...
For hackers, George Orwell's prophetic book 1984 is happening today. There is no longer any way of escaping the eyes and ears of Big Brother.
The surveillance industry is not detached from government. One should never think that it is detached from government. All the big players, like Siemens and Amasis and so on, they are the same providers to the domestic intelligence agencies, for Amasis to the French, and for Siemens to German. They are like this.
A massive internet, that's their word.
A journalist from the French website OWNI presents the results of an inquiry he conducted around the planet without ever leaving his computer at home.
The Amasis system has been used not only to spy on Libyans living inside Libya, but also to spy on Libyans living in London, in the United Kingdom, and in the United States, and to spy on a British lawyer, and to spy on 2 people financed by the US Congress.
The technology now exists that can enable a police...
Everyone agrees that digital interception is vital when it comes to finding criminals, terrorists, or pedophiles. But a confidential document from a German company was made public, which openly states that it's also useful for monitoring the political opposition. Bahrain is an island in the Persian Gulf that hardly anyone ever talks about. Journalists are banned and protest is suppressed. A German company provided the authorities with an excellent computer surveillance system. Thanks to this equipment, Al-Kansar, an English language professor and the leader of a pro-democracy movement, was caught, imprisoned, and tortured for a month. He managed to get out of jail, but has since been condemned in his absence to 15 years of jail.
This is the curtain where
He's in hiding somewhere in Bahrain and agreed to speak with us secretly using Skype.
Just days.
If they catch you, you go in jail for 15 years?
I hope so. It's only just going to jail. I'm afraid of torture. I don't care about jail. I'm caring about torture.
Do you still use a mobile phone or it's too dangerous?
No. Since 1 year, I haven't used my mobile phone.
Sure.
I can talk freely.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm talking to you. I'm caring about my situation. I didn't talk freely. Whenever I contact someone by Skype or by internet, that day I couldn't sleep until morning. Because every time I used to look from the window where they have come to me or not. This is something, the experience of torture is unforgettable experience. And even if there is a silly voice from outside, I stand up and directly to the window. It is something, you know what had happened to me.
Sure.
They must stop providing these machines and techniques over the world.